Archbishop Dolan, the worldwide celebration of the Year for Priests will shortly come to an end. What do you think the year has meant for the Church and for priests?
You know, Pope Benedict XVI is a great teacher. And like any teacher, he knows that you kind of need events, and you kind of need themes, and you kind of need to set a tone. And that's what he's trying to do in the Church. You remember last year he did it very effectively with the Year of St. Paul. And then I think throughout the Church Universal, people just enthusiastically welcomed his invitation that we would spend this current year as a year for priests. You ask what have been the fruits of that year? I think they've been rather abundant. In fact, I'm pleasantly surprised at the good things that I see coming from the Year of Priests. One that would be certainly kind of difficult to graph, because the fruits would be by their nature more intangible, would be the power of people's prayer for priests. I know, for instance, back home in the Archdiocese of New York, every parish that I go through, they've got this huge banner in the sanctuary asking people to pray with and for their priest. Now, one cannot exaggerate the importance and the wonderful spiritual fruits that would have come from that. And I myself am very touched to see the number of parishes that are having, special holy hours. I know in May there were quite a few of communal rosaries, all for the intentions of priests, to pray with and for the ones we got, to ask the Lord to give us even more, and to express a solidarity with priests in, let's face it, a rather critical time, a tough time for them as priests. So there's one, I think, very obvious fruit, the metrics of which we can't really graph because of their supernatural level. A second one, I think, has been, in a way, kind of allowing our priests almost to kind of stand a little taller, take a deep breath, and say, when all is said and done, our people still love us, the Church still needs us, and the whole Church seems to have rallied around us in a sign of very touching, tender affirmation. Now, we priests didn't ask for that. I don't think we expected that. We certainly don't think that is our due. And I don't even know if that was one of the intentions of Pope Benedict in proclaiming this Year of Priests. But I am pretty confident that that indeed has been one of the fruits, that priests will tell me how this has been sort of a booster shot for them, that here they see the people that they love at a time when very often all we hear about are the sins and scandals of priests. Here they just see their people rallying around them in a very touching sign of solidarity. And this has been amazingly effective for them. And thirdly, I think maybe what it's done is reconfirmed for the Church what we've all known, but maybe which we needed to make explicit, and I think we have made it explicit during this Year of Priests, namely that the Church needs her priests. There was, thanks be to God, and it was needed, and it was good, after the Second Vatican Council, there was a very laudable emphasis on all the other array of charisms and vocations in the Church. And there was actually, in a very refreshing, necessary way, an affirmation that all of us, in a very real way, share in the common priesthood of Jesus Christ by baptism and by our sacramental life. Beautiful. Thanks be to God. We may have got that a little out of kilter, so that unintentionally priests thought, well, wow, I wonder what's unique. I wonder what's essential. I wonder what's still needed in my own priestly vocation in this atmosphere of emphasizing all the others, which they were for. And I think the Year of Priests has said to them, we need you. We love you. We appreciate and affirm the unique identity, charism, and vocation of the priest. In my mind, I think those are three benefits that have come from the Year of Priest.
A couple of years ago, you said that your mandate was to increase vocations, and you said that your policy was going to be happiness, that happiness attracts. And I'm just wondering, how have things been going in terms of vocations, numbers, and promotion?
At home, well, I just had the supreme privilege of ordaining 10 priests at St. Patrick's Cathedral for the Archdiocese of New York. I can't take credit for them. They were there when I got there. But I do believe, and I'm glad you mentioned, here I am at St. Patrick's College at Maynooth, this great seminary, where philosophy and theology are held in such high esteem. Our philosophers tell us, one of the first principles I ever learned when I was trying to study philosophy in preparation for priesthood, is that bonum diffusum est. Good by its very nature expands. Good mushrooms. Good goes all over the place. So if I'm thinking to myself, if we can emphasize the good, if we can recapture the joy and happiness of priesthood, that's going to be explosive. That's going to get out there. Nobody wants to join a group of crabs. So if priests come across as crabby, as whiny, as unhappy, as persecuted, well, who in the world's going to buy a ticket on the Titanic, see? But if you got priests that are happy, a happiness that is especially noteworthy at a time when things might not be going particularly well for priests, boy, you're going to have a lot of young men and a lot of parents saying, hey, that must be a great way to spend one's life. And I think we're going to attract them. I love to quote the statistic at home, and I don't know if it's true in Ireland or not, and I don't know if there were two, in the last 2 or 3 years, there were two scholarly research projects done on the happiness of priests. Because the word is out there that priests aren't happy, see, that morale is bad. Well, one was done by Dean Hogue, who was a renowned sociologist. The other was done by the Los Angeles Times. Now, neither of these would be particularly ardently pro-Catholic. They're not looking for good news. But both of them expressed great consternation that they found that priests were the happiest of any profession that they studied. That 94% of priests in the United States said, if I had to do it all over again, I'd still be a priest, and expressed a higher sense of joy and satisfaction in their vocation than doctors, than policemen, than firemen, than healthcare workers, you name it, all right? Now that's astounding, and what I'm thanks be to God for that, but that's not the impression given, is it, Brenda? And what I'm always saying to priests is, don't be afraid to exude that joy. I wonder sometimes, it's a chilling fact today, I hate to say it, of when I interview a young man who's going to come to our seminary in New York, St. Joseph's Seminary at Dunwoody. Wow, more often than not, the fellow will say to me, my folks aren't all that happy about the vocation. I understand that's also even more the case for a young woman who might say, I'm very interested in consecrated religious life. And I sometimes wonder, right away I'm thinking, wow, those parents must not have any faith, or those parents must be turned off by the church. They don't want their son or daughter to think about a vocation as a priest or a nun. But you know what? I wonder if parents naturally, they just want their kids to be happy, right? In a way, they could care less what their kids are doing. They could care less if their kids are collecting garbage, or if their kids want to be an astronaut, as long as it's going to make them happy. They're worried that if their son or daughter says, I want to be a priest, or I want to be a sister, he or she's not going to be happy. Well, and you can't blame them sometimes, because maybe all they see is grim, glum priests and sisters and brothers. That's not what I see. I see priests who are bristling with excitement and who are alive and happy. But we probably got to do a better job of getting that across. And I think that's going to be a magnet for vocations if we do.